Action Bronson was in the kitchen cooking. He had a joint hanging out of his mouth. And I'm not a smoker. I'm a runner. I like to work out. I'm a healthy, person. And I'm thinking, and no offense to the smokers, of course, but I was just like, why would you smoke it? I mean, while you're cooking, like, why don't you just put it in the food, and accomplish like the 2-in-1, right? And so that was sort of like, we need to do this, So that was part of Kitchen Token. I should preface everything that I say with, I firmly believe that this plant is food. Cannabis is food, and I believe that food is medicine. Not all medicine. I'm not saying I don't use pharmaceuticals or I wouldn't, but I try very hard to stay away from them. So when I have a headache, I'll go to my cupboard or I'll drink water or, I'll have some CBD or something. But I try to stay away from pharmaceuticals, and try to take the approach of plants over pills anytime that I can.
Yeah, that's a good way to be.
Sean Dustin spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. Upon release in 2006, he had nothing but the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and legal paperwork. In 2010, he kicked a long-time methamphetamine habit and started the long climb back up the ladder of life. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. If you want transparency and authenticity, you're in the right place. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and this is Sean Dustin.
Hey, what's up? This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and I'm your host, Sean Dustin. If it's your first time listening, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. It's good to have you with us this evening. Do me a favor. If you're on YouTube watching this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button in the corner and thumbs this video up. If you're on Facebook, like this and share it, please. Facebook doesn't like to promote things for you unless you're paying them for it. So what I really count on is you as a listener or viewer sharing these episodes so it can get some traction. Podcast platforms, if you're listening to this on that, like Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, all of those, that'll be coming out here in the next couple of days. So if you're listening there, do me a favor and subscribe, please. That'll help get me noticed on the podcast platforms. If you dig the StreamYard that I'm using, the streaming app, go ahead and hit the affiliate link down in the show notes or the description, and that'll give you a $10 credit when you subscribe and for the $25 plan, and that'll help kick back some money to me too, and help the show as well. What else do we got here? We've got the, Patreon. That's another way that you can help support the show is go over to Patreon. And I have 4 tiers there where you can go ahead, subscribe and, get early access to episodes in the $3 tier. You can also if you just want to say, hey man, I like what you're doing and give me $1 a month. That's cool too, man. All this stuff costs money and it's got to get paid for at some point. And if you don't want me pulling in sponsors or ads, that's going to be the best way to keep that from happening. Honestly, at some point I'm going to have to start doing that, to start paying these bills around here. Last night's episode, if you guys didn't check it out, man, that was an amazing episode with Chad Marks, man. His story is he's got a big time story, and I'm so happy that I got a chance to connect with him. So if you didn't see it, check out his YouTube channel called Blood on the Razor Wire TV on his YouTube channel. And that is like a legit, the first episode that he did. And with him and Dog Pound, his buddy from prison, when they talked about how it was in Sandy or Big Sandy in, where they did time together, man, that was, I couldn't believe the conversation they were having, man. It was so impactful. So check that out. Also, Chad's got a book called Blood on the Razor Wires as well. It's called A Prison Memoir. So tonight, who I have for you, Jolene Rivera. And she is a owner of and founder of Kitchen Toke. and that is a website that she has that has a lot of good stuff on it. I checked it out. She does a couple of other things, but it's mostly a magazine about health and wellness through culinary cannabis. And I am a cannabis user myself. I microdose daily THC edibles. So, and it's really helped my mental health and my wellness as well, because it just, I used to always be in a bad mood when I woke, throughout the day. And, it's really helped to just make me a nicer person throughout the day. So I don't know if it has anything to do with it. It's not because I'm getting high, that's for sure, because I'm not. Let's bring in Jolene right now. Hey, Jolene, how are you?
Hi, Sean. How are you? Good evening.
Good evening to you too, as well. Hopefully I got that right. I saw you nodding in agreement, so I imagine that I did.
Yeah. Kitchen Toke is the first media company in the world dedicated to informing consumers on culinary cannabis for health and wellness.
Awesome. So let's talk about that. How did you even get involved in this space, right? I know it's an emerging space for sure. A lot of people are getting into it, and it is, I know we have, literally right down in, I live in the Delta, and there's an island out in the middle of the Delta that somebody bought, and that's all they do is grow cannabis on that island. And seriously, and it's all legit, it's all legal, and they've got truckloads of it coming off of that island that they get ferried across the waterway on a those old school ferries.
That's pretty great. Well, I spent 20 years in the media space. I was a graphic designer at Meredith Publishing. I was designing magazines for a living. When I left there, I got really into the food space. I started doing, cookbook work for Food Network, and just shooting various art directed, creative directing, shooting photo shoots for the food space, food industry, craft foods, Chicago Magazine Top 20 Restaurant Shoot. I ended up 8.5 years ago. I ended up at US Foods as a creative director for their food program called Food Fanatics, and we produce a quarterly magazine for US Foods still. And when you're around chefs and really talking about food trends, on the daily, you're paying attention to what's going on. And during that time, my co-designer, she was helping me run my creative agency, Nellie Williams. Her dad was diagnosed with cancer, lung cancer, in 2011. And, I'm pretty close to her. And so it was hard for me to watch her be worried like that. Her sister and I used to work together at Meredith back in 1997. So I know the family. And I basically, listened and day to day, and heard about how her dad was doing. And by 2016, he had tried many experimental treatments, signing up for anything he could, and he was losing his battle by 2016. And I was paying attention to the cannabis space at the same time, and I had heard chefs cooking with cannabis. I was not a user. I tried it in high school, but it wasn't really my thing. And right around 2016, I called some friends in Chicago and said, hey, would you guys be able to find me some edibles, something that I could take him? I started looking online, and there was really nothing there was a lot of information, and there were a lot of, kind of what I would call homespun recipes, but I didn't know if I could trust them. And I'm sure there was probably some people that I've actually worked with today in the magazine that were probably making recipes, but I didn't know them. I didn't know if I could trust them. I didn't really know where to get credible information. And so my friends got me some high THC chocolates, and I drove down to Missouri with a friend of mine, Whitney Larson, who's also on my team. And we showed up at Nellie's parents' store, and she's got a very Irish Catholic family in Washington, Missouri. And we knocked on the door to deliver some THC chocolates. I was a nervous wreck. I was like, oh God. And I said to Nellie, I'm like, you told your parents I'm coming, right? And she's like, Kind of. I was like, oh my God, Nelly, like, oh my God, here's the Mexican showing up from Chicago with the weed, you know? And we were kind of having a laugh when her mom opened up the door. And so I remember standing in the kitchen and her dad was there. And I said, so Fred, I have something for you. And I was sort of like, oh shit moment, you know? And I told him what I had and he's like, give me those. He took the box. He ate 3 of them in a row. And I remember by the 3rd one, I was like, you might not want to do that. And I knew nothing then, to be honest. And if anyone's listening out there, do not do that.
Do not do that.
Yeah, the rule of thumb is start low, go slow. But, you know, he's battling cancer for 5 years. He's tried everything. He's in extreme amount of pain. His neck was swollen like 3 times the size of a normal neck. It had spread to his lymph nodes. It was choking him from the inside. What do you tell somebody who's in that amount of pain? You could see it on his face, you know, and he took the chocolates and was about, I'm going to say 30, 40 minutes into the conversation. He's like, well, I'm hungry. I'm going to crack open a beer. And, you know, he's smiling and he started, you know, messing around with the kids a little bit. And you could tell that his whole mood just shifted. It was really incredible to be in the room and watch it right in front of us, you know?
Yeah.
And he went for a walk around the block. He's like, he walked down to his other daughter's house. We all went down there and had bites and a glass of wine. And he was just ready to have a little bit of fun, I think, you know? And when I left that day, I was sobbing in the car. I could not even drive. I was crying so hard. I knew that would probably be the last time I saw him. You know, Nellie said, why are you crying so hard? I said, I think this might be the last time I'm going to see him. And I was right. He passed away. To me, I feel like it was 3 weeks later, but maybe a little bit more. It felt like it was too close, you know, but he passed away. And after the funeral, I went back down and I waited a little bit. And then I said to her later, what if we took everything we're doing now? Because we were doing a magazine called Gluten Free Forever. We were doing Sweet Paul magazine. We were doing food fanatics. We were designing cookbooks. What if we take all the information that we know, take our design, marketing, branding skills, and apply it to something where we could help other people have one good day? Mm-hmm. And so I filled a white space, you know. I launched a magazine about culinary cannabis that didn't exist, a platform that didn't exist, and directed it towards people like me who I didn't respond to high times. I wasn't responding to dope with the big nugs on the cover. Mm-hmm. You know, Cannabis Now wasn't really something I was directed at me. It wasn't directed at her parents, you know, her family. So we designed a magazine that would, you know, be attractive to all of these people that weren't necessarily looking to cannabis mm-hmm. for help with daily pain, you know, any form of health and wellness, because of the fear of being high. So Kitchen Toke is an entry point to anyone who's curious about cannabis.
Yeah, that's a great point that you make, too. And for anybody out there that wants to know, like, you know, what she said in the beginning, start low, go slow. That really is the key. Like, I make my own chocolate, right? And I do everything myself. I have a buddy that grows and he gives me, you know, I get his trimmings and like the bud clippings and everything else. And I infuse my own, cocoa butter and I make my own stuff, right? And just because I want to know what's in it. And you know, sometimes it doesn't, you know, the one thing that the dispensaries have that I don't is their stuff is like perfect every time. Right. And there have been times, because I know what my dosing is to not get high, right? And just to get all the benefits without the other stuff, even though I am taking THC. But sometimes I'll get a piece where it seems like maybe it didn't get mixed up well enough, and it'll take me over to the place that I do not want to be. And so for anybody that's ever taken edibles, and you would know that is no fun. There is no fun in when you take too much of an edible, because it's a scary place to be. Because it is. Yeah, it's a scary place to be. I mean, even though you know it's gonna get, all right, okay, you're okay. All right, time. Let's just get some time. You know, I know it's gonna go away in like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. but
nothing's going to happen. You don't have to go to the hospital.
yeah.
You just have to remember to tell yourself you're high. I would recommend that you could chew on some black peppercorns. There are terpenes in black peppercorns that will bring you down. You could take some straight CBD. That would help too.
Okay.
Don't eat a mango. That will make you higher.
Yeah. But it's like, but the stigma behind it is that, oh, you're just trying to get high. And that's not true. Yeah. I mean, there are some people that probably are, but not everybody is. And the stigma is really what we're trying. I mean, that's what I brought you here for. And that's what we're really trying to break through, right? This stigma around marijuana as being this, Harry Anslinger did an amazing job in what he did back in the day.
He sure did.
And you and I both share the same kind of culture, in our background, because I'm Hispanic too, half, and it was aimed at us and our people.
Yeah, you won't catch me using the M word.
Yeah. And so it's there's a lot of history there, but there's a lot of goodness, man. I mean, cannabis, in my opinion, is no different than corn as a commodity, with all the different things that you can do with it. Actually, it's probably better than corn because you can do more things with it. Every product that you can make with it is 10 times better than the products that they have on the market currently. Right? With cotton and rope and clothes, right. The durability of the hemp and when you make hemp, like clothing and all products made from hemp are just amazing. Like I've had some, so the lotions that they make with hemp, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, those just make your hands so soft. I love that stuff.
Oh, they're crushing up that hemp seed. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that stuff. Mm-hmm. So tell me about a little bit more about the space and what maybe I may not know or the viewers may not know about the space and so here I got one for you. Netflix has 2 different food series on there where they're cooking with cannabis. Have you seen those?
I've heard of them. I don't know if I've seen them, the ones you're talking about yet.
Oh, check them out, man.
There's a new show coming out on 420. You know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a new show coming out on 420. I'm really excited to watch, actually.
But just watching them cook with cannabis and all the different forms of it, it's not just weed. It's infused stuff. It's keef, actually working with the fan leaves themselves, chopping them up like you would basil or parsley. I mean, it's really amazing what they've done in that space.
Well, it's funny. I'll go back to 2016 before I had I don't know if it was an aha moment, because you can see that it was a catalyst. There were all of these things that were the catalyst for me getting there, to fill that white space. But I wasn't really into watching YouTube, and my boyfriend at the time was, always had his iPad, was watching always something on his iPad. And I really wasn't. I was never one of those people. I am now. But he was showing me a video about Action Bronson. Action Bronson was in the kitchen cooking. He had a joint hanging out of his mouth. And I'm not a smoker. I'm a runner. I like to work out. I'm a healthy, person. And I'm thinking, and no offense to the smokers, of course, but I was just like, why would you smoke it? I mean, while you're cooking, like, why don't you just put it in the food, and accomplish like the 2-in-1, right? And so that was sort of like, we need to do this, So that was part of Kitchen Token. I should preface everything that I say with, I firmly believe that this plant is food. Cannabis is food, and I believe that food is medicine. Not all medicine. I'm not saying I don't use pharmaceuticals or I wouldn't, but I try very hard to stay away from them. So when I have a headache, I'll go to my cupboard or I'll drink water or, I'll have some CBD or something. But I try to stay away from pharmaceuticals, and try to take the approach of plants over pills anytime that I can.
Yeah, that's a good way to be. So the reason why I started doing, taking edibles and all, and for you probably don't know, and for anybody watching that probably doesn't know, I was addicted to meth for 18 years. I stopped doing that. And when I started playing softball, I injured myself and I got pain pills, right? And, no, they gave me Norcos, right? And so I started out with those, and then 7 years later, I'm taking 10 milligram Percocets, and I was spending at one point, an extra $500 a month getting them off the street. But it wasn't like meth because I could still function, right? I could still go to work. I could still show up, and I could still do all this other stuff.
I know some very high functioning former meth addicts.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was too, but it still ruined my life. Like I couldn't, like every way that I tried to do it, it ended badly.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing good. There's nowhere to go but down on that one.
Yeah, right.
Eventually, yeah.
So with the pills, right? It right before I started doing the podcast, maybe like 6 months before that, I was like, "How are you going to?" So I was still getting prescribed these things, and I'm like, "How are you going to talk to anybody about nowhere to go but up when you're still playing around with these pills? Doing whatever it is that you're doing with them, taking some of them sometimes, and doing whatever you were doing with the rest of them." And I just stopped. And the way that I did it is I weaned myself down half dose I was used to taking until I got down to probably about maybe a quarter of a pill. And the rest of the way I switched over to edibles. So I knew I was going to still feel some discomfort from the withdrawals, right? But I knew it wasn't going to be as bad. The diarrhea wouldn't have kicked in. The stomach pains that you have were a lot less. And eating the sweating, the edibles really helped me through that. Right. It helped me through that end part to get off of them. And I haven't touched them since. Well, actually, no, I can't lie about that. When I got my surgery, I did take some, they gave me perks again, but I told them specifically, they asked me how many I wanted. I said, I want 20. That's it. Just give me 20 of them. And I already had a plan in place for my girlfriend to somebody who's you hold them and don't give me any more than I need. And so I went into it very intentional, right?
Yeah.
And so it didn't end up becoming a problem. And actually, I didn't even have any withdrawal symptoms from it even after that. I didn't feel funny or nothing. It was just, all right, well, they're gone. Let's move on. Life keeps going.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and that was kind of a long way to go around to say that, I firmly believe in cannabis as a medicine, it's amazing. And psilocybin too. Mushrooms are the same way. They're no different.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I grew up with I'm an adult child of two alcoholics, and there's, drug addiction in my family as well. And I would have given anything, to know then what I know now. I don't know how much I could have helped, because you learn that. I mean, I think I've been in counseling since I was 13, to be honest. Mm-hmm. So you learn what you're in control of and what you're not. And I learned that at a very early age. And I'm lucky for it. I am really lucky for that. A lot of people spend their whole lives growing up in that environment without any counseling or any guidance. And I was lucky enough that I actually was put in counseling, that I went back, that I listened, and that I got something from it. And I've applied that to my life since I was 13 years old.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. My dad was an alcoholic as well as when I was growing up. I grew up in an abusive household, mostly verbally, but I heard there was some of the other stuff, but like I couldn't. There was just stories. I never saw any of it. So I can't really say that I know for sure that happened. So tell me a little bit about what's your favorite dish to eat cooking with cannabis?
Well, you'll laugh, but we haven't talked about it, but I just recently launched a new honey. It's a CBD honey, but it's the only honey in the world that's infused by bees. And so to be honest, that is what I eat 3 times a day now. In the summertime, I would love to chop up cannabis leaves. I was on a photo shoot. It was like the summer of 2018 or 2019. I can't remember. But Chef Derek Simsick, he's one of my favorites. He was doing a story cooking over fire with us, and we were doing a duck over fire. He did a grilled watermelon with fresh cannabis leaves. And I don't know why it was a combination of everything that he put in there. It was a CBD vinaigrette, but I ate that entire salad when we were done shooting it. I think I ate the whole bowl. And ever since then, I've just been like, if I can get my hands on fresh cannabis leaves, I'm all about it. I love I love how good it tastes in my salad. I love the antioxidants that come with, the THCA in the plant. And it just feels so fresh. I mean, it tastes so fresh. I love it. So
yeah,
that's one of them.
Yeah, I know when I would grow some of my own, when I would try, I used to love going and taking my fingers on the stalk and just that smell, that fresh smell, man. It's just, I don't like to smoke it, but I definitely like the way that I don't like the way that it smells when you burn it, but I like the way it smells when it's fresh.
Yep. Well, and let me tell you about the honey too, because this is a perfect way for me to say that when I got involved in this honey, this is the epitome to me of food as medicine. It really is. And I sought out this team, this research and technology team in Israel. It's called BFuse Technology, and I've been working with them for the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, to bring to market our honey. It's called Red Belly Honey, and you can find it at redbellyhoney.com. But it is the first honey in the world infused by bees. The bees are foraging flowers and plants like they always do. And then we offer them a proprietary blend, a hemp nectar, we call it. So they drink in this nectar, they break down the cannabinoids with their bee bellies, and then they express the cannabinoids in the honey when they make their honey. And so the honeycombs are spun and the honey's jarred, and we add nothing to it. So it's also the first, CBD that's water soluble. And I've had so many people, calling me up after eating this honey and telling me how it works for them. I mean, 30% of the people right now who are buying the honey are coming back. So I know it works, but I'm always amazed at what it works on. I had some woman who was coughing for 30 years and it helped her stop coughing. She had a staple damage a nerve in her throat and she stopped coughing. I've had people tell me that they're feeding it to their dogs. Their dogs are happier, I mean, back pain. I had somebody call me and tell me he fell off a boat 40 years ago or some ship when he was in the Navy, hurt his back. And he said, I took it and all of a sudden my back pain's gone. So, I love hearing these stories. Sometimes they make me cry because I'm not really ready for them. And I'm so happy that I can help people. I mean, that was the goal. If we could just help people. When you've lived in pain, and when you live in pain, I have herniated discs in my back. When you experience pain, like all day long, it's exhausting. It's tiring. It's mood changing. It can make you depressed. It can make you not sleep. Mm-hmm. So I always, if I can help someone who's living in pain like that, just for 5 minutes, sometimes I have pain in my neck so bad. It's like, you just want to call time out,
Yeah.
So I think that's important for people to know that stuff.
Yeah, I understand that completely. Like I'm in the building trade. So, I mean, every day, I would go to work and up and down ladders and, it's labor basically. You're doing manual labor, even though you're getting good money and getting paid for it. But I would be destroyed by the end of the week, man, in pain. And, it makes it to where you don't want to do anything else with the rest of your day once you're done. Right.
Yeah, and I would wake up and it would almost beat me before I started.
Wow. Yeah.
If you let it, yeah. I mean, I've already had back surgery once a long time ago. Then I was in a car accident in 2010. So it herniated 3 discs in my neck. And it used to make headaches so strong that I couldn't see out of my left eye. So.
Yeah, I'm going to have to. No, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, when you experience that kind of pain, you'll do it. It's funny because people look at our jar of honey and say, oh, it's $65. And I think, well, how much is the medication that you picked up, from the pharmacy? It's like we don't think anything of it when the doctor writes us a prescription. We just go get it, Mm-hmm. And I don't know how many times, I don't know about you, but how many times I've filled a prescription and not used it, or not maybe it's like, oh, I didn't even need this,
Yeah. I definitely don't like taking pharmaceuticals at all. I mean, yeah, like you are right. They do have some benefits for some things, but if you can steer clear of them, it's definitely going to be better for you and your gut biome as well. All of that natural stuff. I mean, when you start putting pharmaceuticals in there, it starts killing your natural gut biome, and that's kind of where our second brain is, right? I mean, at least that's what people have told me, and I've had a lot of people on the show that, deal with stuff like that. I got one coming up, that had to help herself. She had, what was it? She had Crohn's maybe, or something to do with her gut, and she cured it with food, and it's all better now. All the autoimmune stuff that she was having is all gone. So
one of our chefs, Chef David Utsabata, he's in Massachusetts. He just got his infuser license in Massachusetts. He owns a business called Culinary. He has Crohn's disease, and he has gotten himself off of all medication just by using CBD.
Good on him, man.
Or cannabis in general. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did. And so now you see, look at all of these results that just in this short amount of time, you and I talking, that you've, pointed out. And it's no wonder why, the big guys don't want it out until they can control it in some way.
I know. And, these aren't made up things. Like, you can go to redbellyhoney.com and click on the reviews. You can read them for yourself. Whoever buys the honey, you can go post a review yourself. So they post them, and, I let them be. So those are real reviews by real people, and, doing a lot of different things. So, all of the anecdotal stories in Kitchen Toke in the magazine, we let people, we actually approach people and say, hey, would you mind being a guest in the magazine and writing your story? Tell us your story. Because I think, when you think about what cannabis can do for the everyday person, we made a video in 2018 of Eugene Monroe. He's a former NFL player. He's a first round draft pick player. He's a cannabis user, a cannabis advocate. We spent 3 days with him, followed him in his life, and flew a chef in to cook a meal specifically for his ailments for that day. Mm-hmm. And when he talks about the pain and stuff that he's been in and how he uses cannabis, I always think, if when you're in the NFL, every play is a car crash on your body. I mean, think about that, the impact. So if cannabis can help someone like him from his pains and injuries and multiple surgeries and concussions that he went through, what can it do for the average person sitting at your desk all day when your back hurts or your knees hurt or whatever? So if you think about that for a second, it's the smallest amount. You don't have to be high to be healthy. And that's the other thing that I want to talk about. I'm sort of don't fit in the cannabis space in some ways because I don't like being high. Mm-mm. I don't like being high at all. So I have cannabis every day, all day, but I'm never high. So that's, we often in the cannabis industry talk about microdosing, and microdosing is anything 10 milligrams or less. And I would prefer to talk about nanodosing. I believe that nanodosing is going to be the wave of the future. You see all these drinks coming out now, and they're like 2 milligrams or, anything under 5, really.
Yeah, just having that steady flow of the medicine in your system, but not enough to induce, the psychoactive part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. When I interviewed Jim Belushi, he described 5 milligrams or less. He said, I don't like to go over anything like that in an edible. He's like, 5 milligrams is just enough. It's like a warm blanket.
That's a great way to put it, man. And that's, and I often, talk about it like that as well. It's like, it's just that, like, okay. Yeah, let's go. Yeah. Let's get on with the day. Everything's going to be fine. It takes away all of the anxiety. It takes away, anything and it just allows me to focus on things and get things done and not be in my head as much. And so for me, that's a relief because I spend a lot of time in there. Right. And when I get in there, sometimes bad things happen.
I understand when you grow up like we did, sometimes it's like walking down the worst neighborhood in a dark alley. That's what it's like when you get too far into your head. Do you know what I mean? It's like midnight in the worst neighborhood you can think of, alone in a dark alley.
Right, right.
Huh?
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
So there was something else. Man, I missed it. I had the question and it just went off and went way over there.
That's okay. We could talk about what CBD does for you. People ask me all the time, why would I eat your honey? Why would I take CBD? I mean, it's an antioxidant. It's an anti-inflammatory. It's a neuroprotector. It's an anti-convulsant. It's anti-anxiety. I mean, antidepressant, antipsychotic. I mean, I could keep going.
Yeah. Oh, I found what it was, and we can get back to that. So, are you familiar with the documentary Vanishing of the Bees?
I can't remember if I watched that or not.
It's the one.
Is it a full documentary or is it one episode and a thing?
No, it's a full documentary.
Okay.
And it's basically, it talks about, remember the colony collapse that was happening all over the place where the bees were
yes,
just.
I did watch that.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I had her on my show, the director of that, Miriam Hanane.
Yes.
And,
okay.
All right. So she's been on my show and she went through that whole thing. And, that movie was so amazing. I had no idea, had no idea that these little guys, were like that. And, what they ended up finding out was, and this happened in, I want to say it was France, where they banned all of those, I guess it's Bayer now, but it was Bayer and Monsanto both kind of, teamed up now, right? And so instead of spraying the insecticides or pesticides on the plants now, on the leaves, they switched to a GMO seed that has it within the seed. And so what was happening is that these and it wasn't like an immediate effect, right? They would go and take the pollen and the nectar from the plant, right? And bring it back and feed it to the larvae and the baby bees. And what they didn't realize is that, okay, there was minute amounts of poison that they're bringing back to the colony and feeding to the young and the bees that were going to be, coming up, and the next generations, and all of them were being affected. And they literally showed what a regular bee does. They're very calculated. They know exactly what they do. They do the same thing all over the time. They have a method, right? Mm-hmm. And the ones that were affected were staggering. You could plainly see that there was something wrong with them.
They were poisoned.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. And so if that's doing that to the bees, all right, what's that doing to the food? What's that doing to the soil and the groundwater and the
I was
all
just
of
going
that?
to say, let's back up to the seed, because I just was reading a study yesterday that they're finding pesticides in soil 20 years after they cleaned it up.
Mm.
So, I mean, when you think about that, and here's the thing that I'll tell you, and I know it sounds like I keep bringing it back to my product, and I'll tell you why it does, because I'm so focused on this honey because I know what it's doing, not just for people, but in the environment. And it's my focus right now. I mean, Kitchen Toke's been running for almost 4 years now. So we just launched the honey 5 months ago. So it's all I'm thinking about lately, to be honest. So, but we launched in August. In September, if you Google, everybody out there, if you're Googling, you can Google Poland, hemp, and bees, those 3 words. You'll see a study came out in September of 2020, which is about a month after we launched, that a Polish scientist group have been studying the behavior of bees when they have access to hemp terpenes specifically. So our team noticed, my team out in California noticed that the bees in our apiary were stronger, aggressive. They were swarming, they were splitting and breaking off, they were multiplying quicker. They showed strength, and no one really knew why. Well, now we kind of do. We think, and we're pretty sure, that because we're offering the bees at the apiary in California the hemp nectar, which is made of a whole plant, full spectrum, product. They have access to, I think there are about 36 different cannabinoids and 27 different terpenes in our honey. So when they have access to those, we believe that it's doing exactly what this Polish scientist group is saying, that it's helping bees fight off the poison and pesticides better. They're living longer. So it's really interesting because now I'm like, okay, I just talked to my team in Texas today, and we're like, how do we write a grant now to get the approval to do a study on the behavior of bees at our apiary? And wouldn't that be great?
Oh, yeah.
Because not only are we're making a honey that has cannabinoids in it for people, consumers. When you're buying this honey, you're now supporting the life of the bees, at least at our apiary right now. And I can imagine that we're going to probably figure out a way to help other beekeepers, because I can't, my research and technology team, Beefuse Technology in Israel, they are very, very concerned about the food, the bees, the health, the environment. So I know that that's something that they're paying attention to. And I'm really excited about it. What if we can just plant hemp everywhere, and that will help the bees?
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And like, we don't really we don't think about how important bees really are to our existence, between the bees and the ocean. That's a huge part of why we're here. And why things keep going. And it's crazy, man. And it's profit driven corporations are definitely are going to be the demise of this world,
Money. Yeah. Well, we could talk about that with the FDA and why they won't legalize cannabis. It's about money, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, what I always thought it was about is that they were just waiting for, because you've got states that, like, what is it? Almost up to like 18, maybe half the states now have some sort of form of marijuana, either medical and recreational.
I think we're at 14 now.
14? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And then now Mexico.
Oh, about time. At least they don't have to ours is better up here anyways. And they're all up here growing it illegally.
Biden's under pressure, I think, with Mexico and Canada, just sandwiching us in. And now we've got 32 medicinally legal states. I'm sure I'm wrong, so somebody should check that number. To be honest, it's really hard to keep up with. But I think we have 13. I know we have 14 states now, I think. That are recreational legal, with the new addition of New Jersey, but they don't have anywhere to buy it yet. Yeah.
So, at some point it's going to be, right? And I think that they just kept pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off so big pharma can get in, because there's huge, I've heard of that. There's huge warehouses that the government owns that are growing cannabis right now. And for whatever it is that they're doing, even here in California, I don't know exactly where it was, but I've heard talk of it. And, my only thing is that they're just trying to figure out how they can make the most money on it and push everybody else out.
Well, 30 years ago, the United States gave money to the scientists and researchers in Israel and asked them to research cannabis for us.
Well, we have a strange relationship with Israel. Mm-hmm. The United States.
I have a great one with them.
Yeah. Well, you're not. Are you dealing with the government? Probably not. You're probably dealing with a private company. But our government has a strange relationship with Israel that doesn't really get talked about a whole lot.
Yeah, it's interesting. But, Dr. Ralph Mechlin was, the scientist who, oh my God, I just see that. You want to get a flow hive so bad. So do I.
What is that?
On your face by the flow hive. They are, I can't even butcher it. We should ask this guy, but they're basically self-sustained, hives, and that you really don't have to take the honeycombs out or ruin any of the bees setup or situation. They basically fill up, you turn on a tap and the honey flows out, you close it and you let it be. So wow. it's you don't have to remove the honeycombs. Like right now, all the honeycombs are pulled out of our hives. They're spun. well, actually, they're uncapped by hand, so none of the hives are damaged too badly. Like you have those machine things you can run into. That's not happening. They uncap them all by hand, and then they spin the hives, and the honey comes out, and then we put the hives back. But the flow hive, it's a self. I was going to say self-sustaining, like it's a one structure deal. So it really just the bees are there. The honeycombs are in place. They make the honey. It somehow pushes the honey out. So you basically just turn on the tap and the honey flows out, and then you turn it off and you're not disturbing the bees really.
Oh, that's amazing. And Jordan Barnes has actually been on my show. He is a author of a book called One Hit Away. And he suffered, well, he didn't suffer, but he was addicted to heroin for a long time and on the streets, homeless and everything else. And he went to a long-term treatment center and turned his life around. And it's an amazing story. Yeah, it's an amazing story. Jordan, you're an inspiration, and thank you for tuning in. You tuned in last night too. So he's definitely supporting the show. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's tough. I mean, I listened to your story and what you just said, and, growing up, there's a lot of drug and alcohol addiction in my, immediate family and in my, my cousins and, not all of them, of course, but, there's just a lot. It's hereditary. It's crazy. And you when you see it enough, I made a decision early on, that's not something I want for myself. I wanted to get as far away from that as possible. So by the time I was starting to look at cannabis, I had to do a full flip myself. This is something I was like always associated with the party scene, and boy, was I wrong. It is everything but that.
No, yeah, it's not. And I'm going to keep talking because I'm going to put Clubhouse information on here so I can flash that up on the screen. Because for anybody that doesn't know about Clubhouse, you're almost late to the game. You better get over there.
Well, that's how I met you. I don't know what club we're in, but that's how we met. I've actually had a really interesting time on Clubhouse. I've been meeting a lot of people. I try to listen to a lot of conversations, not just about cannabis, but about health and wellness. I actually listened into a conversation today that talked about successful people, 10 healthy habits of successful people. I always find that fascinating. And then last week, I don't know if you've heard of this woman, Angela Duckworth. She wrote a book called Grit, and she actually measures people who are successful because she says that grit has absolutely nothing to do with IQ. And she developed what she called the grit test to measure the grittiest people. And her grit, she took it to West Point Military Academy. And she gave she said that these students spend 2.5 years trying to get into West Point, and then 70% of them quit 2 months in. Yeah, because they go through some rigorous training. And she wanted to develop a test so she could see, measure if she could predict who's going to drop out, who's going to make it. And her test was pretty successful the first year. She went back the second year and got even closer with her stats. Then she took her test to Green Berets to see if they were going to make it through training. And her test was even getting better, more accurate. And then she took it to the International Spelling Bee and tested kids. And so her whole book is about how is somebody made gritty? Do you have grit? Don't you? And why? And it's all about passion times perseverance equals grit, really.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with IQ, which I kind of love.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've all known people in our life, like I know that I have, that are very, very, very smart. Okay, they're very intelligent. They're book smart. They retain information very well. But then there's these other people, these other folks like myself that have, lots of common sense, lots of street smarts, emotional intelligence, all of the other things that make you that more well-rounded person and able to flow through life. And, maybe the kind of, the stuff that I've been through or people like me have been through, which really makes you a gritty person. Like, how to persevere, how to,
there you go.
to, not quit. Right. And some of it is just flat ass out stubbornness, because I'm not going to let this shit, beat me, whatever it is. But I mean, it's that thing that you've got to dig deep for, right?
Well, how many times have you been knocked down? I mean, I've been knocked down a million times.
Mm-hmm.
And I always get back up. It's about, what are you going to do then? You have a choice. You can get back up, sure, but you got to keep moving. And that's the perseverance kicking in. I think you asked me in an email before we started this, about, let's talk about resilience. And I think that's, resilience is the ability to bounce back, to recover. We've all had to endure that this year with the pandemic, for sure, and loss of loved ones and jobs and money. So we're all being tested right now with a little, how resilient are we? And then, our grit is, are we going to push through? Are we going to keep going? How much is in you, that makes you want to not fail.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a comment here from another viewer from last night who tuned in and is now a fan of the show. Thank you, Alice. I really appreciate that. She reached out to me afterwards and was like, "Oh my God, this is a great show. I didn't even where have you been?" And I was like, "Well, where have you been?" But yeah, she's great. She put on here, and she did a bunch of these last night too during the.
Oh, good. How it works. Nice. Thank you, Alice. Yeah. I'm sure I butchered it, but I think I have the general concept right.
Yeah. And Alice is her brother, I believe it was, and that's why she tuned in last night. He has been wrongfully convicted and spent 25 years in prison so far for a crime he didn't commit. So,
wow.
There's a lot of that, man. There's tons of that when you start really digging into the justice system, which is kind of like what I do. I take on stories of wrongful convictions and, try to amplify that signal out there. And, it really is a shame, man, that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just read a report yesterday. I can't remember the stat, but it was like 90% or something of people of color were arrested for cannabis use in New York City in 2020 still. I mean, that stat is staggering.
It is. It's a shame that you have people still doing decades in prison for something that I can go right down the street and to the store and buy.
Yep.
The problem is that a lot of the laws that they changed, they didn't make retroactive. So it's like, okay, well, yeah, it's cool for all these people that are coming in, but, for you guys that are still there, we still need your labor in the prison industry. So you're kind of stuck. Screw you. You're making us too much money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was another clubhouse room I was in. They had a few people in there that were pardoned this last person in charge. And they were sentenced to life in prison for a pound of cannabis, something like that. Ridiculous. But I mean, Chicago was trying. It's been kind of a shit show here, to be honest, but I am a social equity applicant for dispensaries here. So fingers crossed we'll be in the lottery. We've got 3 applications in. It would be really nice to get one. And there are a lot of deserving people, in the BIPOC space that deserve to be in this industry,
No, I do. And you know what I was wanting to do, because as an ex-felon, they've made that path to entry to getting into the cannabis space as a dispensary owner or somebody that's actually doing something. Because I mean, I could basically, if I wanted to, I can make edibles, right? And I can start selling those, but I can't get a license because I'm a felon. And what I thought would be amazing is to start a business, like have a dispensary and have the whole full thing and allow nothing but people that were justice impacted folks from cannabis, working there, being able to work into that space, that you had to do so much time for in your past.
Yeah. Wait, what state are you in?
I'm in California.
So they haven't expunged those yet?
I don't know if they have or not. I just know that I looked into it at one point, and it was, it said that, if you're a felon or if you have drug felonies, that you are not, you're not eligible to be able to get a license or a permit to do anything involved with that space, period. And it was just to keep us out. It's just another way to.
At what point do you say that somebody has served their time and they're ready to go back and join society? At what point? At what point do you stop? Do you say that they're done?
Never.
They paid.
Never.
That's what I have a problem with. Especially when you're a contributing, functioning civilian. Adding to benefits to the society, and you're back. It's not like you're out selling drugs anymore. So at what point do we just let people get on with their life?
So here, let me show. I have an explanation and an example for you of my own. So when I was 18, I was involved in a fight, which I didn't even have anything to do with really, but I was just the oldest person there. There were 17-year-olds and I was 18, and they had beat up somebody. It's like 3 of them jumped somebody and started kicking him in the head with steel toe boots. Right. And so he didn't die, but I was the oldest one there, so I'm the one that they felt like was responsible because, you're 18, you're the one, right? And so I got a charge of what was that? Like assault with a deadly weapon, steel toe boots, right? And I went to court and I got that knocked down to something else, but it was a violent. It was considered a violent charge, right? Even though I didn't do anything. So when I actually got sent to federal prison, all my charges were white collar crimes. But guess what? They went back to when I was 18 and pulled that and bumped up my points. And now I had to go to a medium security prison instead of going to a camp where I should have gone. So There's an example of the shit don't go away. They constantly continue to find a way to punish you for what you did in your past.
And move the finish line so that you can never succeed.
Exactly. I don't think there's any mistake why they don't allow felons to possess firearms. Because we're pissed. Yeah. We're pissed at what they do to us, right? And so, I don't know. Maybe there's a different reason behind it, but unless. And see, that's the whole reason why I'm starting a nonprofit and a 501c3 to build a housing facility for transitional age youth, 18 to 24 males coming back from incarceration into society, as like a one-stop shop to teach you how to become a productive person, to move forward on and get a job and do all these other things. Because if you don't have support, and I was lucky that I did when I got out, but if you don't have a support system, it's designed to set you up to fail. Straight up. And there's no, I'm not disgruntled. I just saw it. I saw it with my own eyes with all of the things that they put on you and all the hoops that you have to go through, from show up to probation, go do a drug test, go do this, get a job, do all these other things. And when you're in prison, most of the time it's not a rehabilitation place, right? There's no rehabilitation going on there unless you seek that out yourself, right? And you want to run that path. But for the most part, most guys, especially the ones that are only there from 0 to 5 years, it's really not enough time to change any kind of behavior or do any kind of work. You're just kind of like, you figure out where you fit in the first year. Then you spend a lot of time, making your outside look good, but the inside never changes.
I was just going to say, and then, you're released with nothing and nowhere to go except for back to maybe an old neighborhood or family or whatever. And then your choices from there are kind of limited. They're not, you said it earlier, they're not setting you up to succeed. It's difficult. And, no money. I mean, if you're in there long enough, you might forget how to do laundry. It's the simplest things, that you actually have to provide for yourself, and I think that, what you're doing is great. I think it's needed.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And, one thing I want to do though, do you have an affiliate program for your honey? Because I'm getting my website set up, and I'd like to throw an affiliate link on there and promote that too as well.
Yeah, we're working on that. So yeah, I can circle back to you, but I can tell you for any of your listeners right now, especially those ones who are talking about the Flow Hive, if they want to buy the honey, we're offering $10 off to all of your listeners tonight. Nowhere to go but up. If you go to redbellyhoney.com and you type in "never give up," you'll get $10 off a jar, which is a significant discount. So check us out and order us and taste it for yourself. You're supporting the strength of bees.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. And actually send me an email on that. So when I actually publish this to the podcast platforms, it'll be in there for however long you offer it. So it'll be a place where you can, and a link where you can actually go to that. So I appreciate it. And we are at an hour, 59 minutes, man. That went by pretty fast, huh?
Yeah, it did go fast. We were talking about that.
Yeah, right. I love these long form conversations. It really gives me a chance to know you and what you're doing, and get to know who you are, and the stuff that you've got going on. 30 minutes sometimes. 30 minutes is great for some stories, right? A couple of things, doing whatever. But to get really into a conversation in the flow of it, it doesn't really start happening until about 20 minutes. And then it just kind of kicks into overdrive when you and the guest are starting to gel in your conversation like we did, right?
Yeah. I think, we have similar upbringings, and, there's a lot in common. Yeah.
So that's awesome. Yeah. We got a couple of comments, and then we're going to close this thing out. What was that?
Love comments.
We've got KV. She threw that up there. Product 8-ounce jar. Jordan, another comment. Awesome show. Thank you, Jordan. I appreciate your support. And then Frank Lawlor.
Oh, the Never Give Up. Yeah, Never Give Up discount code. Redbellyhoney.com. Never give up.
All right, there you go. Red Belly. What did it say? See, there you go. I forgot it already.
Redbellyhoney.com. Yep. I'll tell you why. Can I just tell you really quick, and I'll help you remember it?
Okay.
So the hemp nectar that we offer our bees, it's red, and when they drink it, their bellies turn red, and it's pretty incredible to watch.
Well, it's a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you can just see them.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's a lot better than what they're feeding them. The sugar water when they're transporting these bees.
I don't use the F word, the feed word. We don't feed our bees anything. Our bees choose. You can't train a bee to eat something. You can't handcuff them. You can't make them. They're either going to take it or not. Our bees are free to roam. They have access to anything they want. And, we let them be. Just be.
Awesome. That's the way that they should be. That's what nature intended, and keeping that model as close to natural as you can is the best for them and the best for us as well.
Yes, it is.
All right. So we're going to close this out. I'm going to put up some of your social media links here. You've got, where to go. All right. kitchentoke.com. That's your website. That's where the magazine is and all of that stuff. Right. And then you can also follow her on Instagram And you're also on Clubhouse as well too. And what is that? That's
I'm in Clubhouse at Jolene Rivera, JOLINE Yep. And you can find we have a club. We have a Kitchen Tote Club, so you can find that too.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look you up and get that club and get in there.
I'm sure I invited you, Sean, already. I'm positive I did.
Did you?
Yeah. If not, we should host a room together.
Yeah, let's do it for sure. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely down with that. I love Clubhouse, man. The organic growth that is happening over at Clubhouse for anybody. If you've been hearing about it, everything you're hearing is that plus some. Because the authentic conversations that are going on over there right now, the people that are just getting straight up real. I mean, I've gotten value out of every room that I've gone in so far. There isn't something that I haven't taken away from any room that I've gone into and been like, God, you know what? That's awesome. I didn't know that. Or, the tips or tricks with podcasting. If you're a podcaster, dude, go get over there, because in those rooms, and I host one too. I have one on Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern time that I host with my friend Maria, who probably would love to have you on her show, because she's a farmer as well in Ohio, I believe, or Iowa, one of those places.
Oh, I'm from Iowa. I'd love to talk to her.
Yeah, for sure. She's an amazing person. She's awesome. And she's actually, I just hired her to do my website and some of my sales funnels that I'm going to try to do. And so, yeah. Well,
at the Kitchen Tote Clubhouse, we are, I'm going to start inviting guests who have written for the magazine. All of our content is source-based, fact-based material, and we know that those facts change as research comes in. So we're going to be inviting, I think I'm going to start a new clubhouse with Laura Logano. She's a MS, RDN, CDN. She's a holistic cannabis. She runs a holistic cannabis academy, and she's written a book called The CBD Oil Miracle. So I'm going to have her in the room, and we're going to talk about her and how she discovered oil for her daughter who has autism. And then she can answer a lot of questions where CBD is concerned.
Awesome. That's great. And also tomorrow I have two streams going. I got one at 1:00 p.m. Pacific time with Aurora from the Borealis Experience, and we started doing a series. We did one episode so far, and basically the series is about formerly abusive people and how we got through it, and having other folks on there that, kind of maybe struggled with that, or were on the other side of it. Maybe they were affected by an abusive person. And, we like to have those conversations and talk about that, because in talking about real things like that, that's where the healing comes in. When you're hiding from your behaviors, that's when that's where they flourish. And when you pull them out of the closet and start really talking about what you were and what you've done and how you were, that's where the healing starts, man. And getting real with who you are and changing those behaviors if they were affecting you. So that's kind of what we're trying to do over there. I can't remember who I have at 6:00 tomorrow. I don't remember who it is. I have so many this week. Literally, I have 6 streams this week, every 2 almost every day. I'm not doing a live one for the director of that documentary, Everything's a Rich Man's Trick, but I would suggest anybody out there who wants to see a great documentary about kind of where we were, like, for the last 100 years. This guy summed up the last 100 years in 3.5 hours, and I was sold. And I actually went and sought him out, just like I do with all the other ones, man. You guys know that when something gets under my skin and makes me want to be a fan and puts me into action, I go right after and try to find the people and get them on the show, because I got questions, man. I want to know. And so,
I know. That's exactly how I felt when I discovered the Israeli team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Jolene, I really want to thank you for spending some time with me. I know it's late over there in Chicago, and you took the time out to come and hang out with me, and I really appreciate that. And I love what you're doing. And let's see, we got a couple more before we go out here. So Jordan said he's convinced he's going to check Clubhouse out. Dude, you're not going to be disappointed. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Do it. It'll be the best. It'll be the best time you've wasted, and because it can be a time suck. I'm not going to lie. You got to be careful with it. Oh,
it's a full-time job. It's a full-time job for me now. Jordan, I'll look for you. And
then Vanessa Valvadinos, I just ordered my honey. I can't wait. Awesome. That's what I like to hear. And please invite me too, Alice. Sure. Hit me, I'll hit me on, Messenger, and I'll get your phone number, and I've got some invites, so I'll shoot you an invite. But the only caveat is you got to have an iPhone. It's not open to Android yet. They're working on it, I imagine, but right now it's in the beta testing, version and iPhone only. So if you don't have an iPhone, sorry, I can't do anything about it. But if you do, I can definitely give you an invite.
And for all you Flow Hive lovers, go get redbellyhoney.com, and never give up is a discount code. Get your honey.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to pull out, and if you want to hang out down below after I go, because I'm going to do a couple more announcements, and I'm going to hit the outro, and then I'm going to meet you in the green room.
Yes, I'll hang out here. Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome. Thanks again. There you go, man. Another awesome interview. I love this job. Well, it's not my real job yet, but soon maybe I will be able to make it my real job, because I love connecting with people, and I love bringing great information to all of you out there who are watching the show and getting something out of my content. Like I said, I cannot stress enough. If you are getting something out of this and you are enjoying what I'm doing, head over to Patreon. Go get on one of the tiers. There's definitely some value for you there. I mean, even the $3 one, you're going to get content that hasn't even been put out yet, uncut, unedited, and basically, you can just, it doesn't have any of the stuff that I put in it. It's just the conversation itself. If you go over to the $5 one, you're going to have an opportunity to once a month be able to come on one of these as a patron subscriber and do a live stream with me, ask questions, do, anything that you want on a live stream. So that's pretty cool, man. Other than that, stay tuned and check out oh man, too bad. I'm sorry, Alice, iPhone. Well, it'll be available to Android users at some point, because that's a whole huge market that they're missing out on. So hopefully they'll do that pretty soon. But yeah, like I was saying, I just love podcasting. And that's all I'm going to say. And I will check you guys out tomorrow. 1:00 will be the first stream. 6:00 will be the second stream. And then there will be one on Friday at 6:00 as well. And, so until next time, keep it real and stay 100, man. It's the only way to be.
You've been listening to the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. Sean is a single dad, a union blue-collar guy, and he spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. When he was released from prison in 2006, all he had was the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and some paperwork. Since then, he's turned his life around and shares the struggles and successes on this podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you were moved. To connect to the show, book a guest spot. For merch, Patreon, PayPal, and social media links, go to linktr.ee/nowhere to go but up. On Instagram at Nowhere to Go But Up Now. On Twitter at But Up Now. On the YouTube channel at Nowhere to Go But Up Podcast. See you next time.